Welcome back to Hot Rod Guy Garage. In today's episode, I'm on 65 Mustang. So follow me along through the intro, and I'll be back. Alright guys, so it's about time we made a little more forward progress on the 65 Mustang after we put the headliner in. And as you can see, after it sat here, we got a few little sags in the headliner. We're going to have to address that. So this is one of those things that happens when you put something in and it sits for a little while. There's going to be some things that you may need to go back here and address, because as this headliner stretches and relaxes, obviously it's going to get a little bigger in some places. So you may have to go back in here and do a little stretching or some other touch-up things. So let me flip it around and I'll show you what I mean. So what you might run into is when you pull your windlace off, guys, you may start to see some little looser type spots in this headliner like this. But what you got to remember is your glass rubber also sits around this lip and it'll pull tension. So don't be scared if you start to see, a little bit of looseness, especially in this area, because your window rubber will actually tighten this back up. So that was the reason of pulling it taut. And when you clip the windlace back on this, it's actually gone. I just figured it was a good way to show y'all, just kind of in relation to our last video, and what you might see when you start pulling the windlace off. So don't let it scare you guys. Just take your finger, run along that window lip. The wrinkle pulls out. When you get your glass in there, it will disappear. And that brings us to what today's video is going to be on. We got to get the glass in this thing. We got to get the rear window in it. We got to get the windshield in it. We need to get the roof rail weather strips in it, so we can put the windlace in, so the headliner is permanently installed. And then we got some things like the sun visors and the rear view mirror and that kind of stuff to put on. So let me flip it around, because I had some people ask about the proper installation of these screw-on aftermarket clips that we got from Kentucky Mustang. So if you haven't yet, guys, they're helping us out on this project, so make sure you go check them out and use my code. It'll be HRGG65, and I'll drop a picture of it down here. So I had a few people ask about these clips. Do you put any kind of sealer on these? What do you do? Well, guys, if you're lucky enough for the holes to already be there, you're not going to have to drill anything. There won't be no raw metal. But what I generally do, I will test fit these things. And that's what I've done in the last video when I screwed these on. I was more or less test fitting to make sure these screws would go in the holes that we had. So what I like to do, and I'm not going to do it on video, but I'm going to show you what I would do. You get this roll of mastic beads here, and this is good for your roof rail weather strip or to put on around your window rubbers. So what I'll do, I'll take a little bitty piece of that thing and I'll make like a little dart out of it. And then once I have the little dart, I will go back in here like this clip right here, and I will take the dry screw out now that we have it test fitted, and I will put our little dart in there. And screw it down. Where I won't hold the screwdriver right. But I'll literally do that, guys. And what that'll do, that'll go down around that screw base and it'll seal it off. And if you have any kind of smushes out around it there like that, you can just push it down. That method seems to work pretty well. All you're trying to do is keep any kind of moisture out from around these screws and keep it from rusting where that screw goes through the metal, because even though it's painted, it's still going to knock some of that paint off. And if you don't have any holes, you may be asking, well, how do I decide where these holes go? You're going to take your clip, guys, And the bottom of this clip sits down in the bend right here, the V in your channel. And you're going to take you a little Sharpie marker, and you're just going to take and put your little dot there. That's going to be your drill hole. These kits, they come with these screws right here. You'll use an 1/8 inch drill bit and just drill you a hole that way. And you can either take some of your leftover paint and touch up around that hole, or you can use, like I said, this mastic beads, which these come, especially this one, Kentucky Mustang, it comes in little small sections. And this stuff can be worked down until it's super, super fine, guys. You know, little small pieces. So it's good for sealing off stuff like this, or around your weather strippings, or like the roof rail. And this right here is the part number. And if you search, you can put in SKU number 2 and it'll come up. But it's classified as body seam sealer / strip caulk. So one of these kits right here will generally do a whole Mustang. So just a helpful tip. It'll hopefully help some of y'all out. But it may seem kind of backwards to, you know, test fit your screws and stuff first. But I've had better luck like that, because once you do that, you get out and put you a little bit of mastic around that and run it in there. It makes it easier, instead of having a screw coated and stuff, and you're trying to see if it'll even fit the holes that are already in the car. So these kits are great, and I'll probably need to show it in this video too. These kits are great if all your studs are broke off or missing around your windows. And guys, if you got the little studs still on your car, this is going to be the clips that you need to use. These clip around the stud, and they're not going to require any kind of sealer because you're not drilling a hole into the car. But an easy trick I found on this is just to use a paint stick and a little small rubber hammer, and you can get on the edge of this clip. And just use your little rubber hammer to seat that clip down. Now this clip, just like the screw-on ones, your rounded part's going to go down towards the body. You can see the profile there. This is what your trim slides under. The sharp 90-degree crease is going to go into the edge right here, just like that. So the paint stick makes it a little easier, especially if you got a good thick one. This is just a little cheapie that was left over from our paint endeavor. But you just tap these little clips down over the studs, and then they're installed themselves. Later on, when we put the rubber on, we're going to end up putting some of that mastic down here around, that butyl mastic around the edge down here. And we're going to be using it, and you're going to end up with a mess kind of like what we had on 66, where that stuff was packed all in everything up here. As you can see, by the time that it's sealed off around your window, it pushes up around the bottom of your clips and stuff. So, all right, we're going to move on to our inside weather strip, our roof roll weather strip trim. I've got one side cleaned up here. These things were in extremely poor condition. These are the ones off 65. As you can see, my 66 ones are still here. So I'm working on cleaning those up now. We got to get them in there so we can get our wind lace put on our headliner. Those are held on with these little flat-headed screws right here. You cannot put a regular screw in it. You have to have one of these thin flat-headed screws, or your weather strip will be poked out that goes in here at every screw joint. And as you can see, the factory screws are flat like that. And then on your 66 cars, you have a foam strip under to the body. The earlier cars, like this 65, uses the same thing we used on our screws, which is our mastic beads. They actually sell that in the mastic tape too, but the beads work just fine. So I'll be back here in a moment when we get to the point of installing them. But when you clean these things up, guys, you got to make sure every bit of your old sealer and your old weather strip is out of these pieces. Get your moldings cleaned up best you can. There's still some places in here I still need to go in and scrape, but I started seeing some bad stuff where somebody had went in here with a screwdriver and beat the crap out of this thing. Now, I did take the polish finish off this and gave it a brushed look. These things were in such poor shape, guys, you would spend hours trying to polish these back to a shiny finish. And once it's in a car, it's really nothing but a little silver line anyway. So I took some 400 grit paper and sanded this down, gave it a little more uniform finish because it had red paint on it. It had all kinds of nasty stuff all over it. But you got to get every bit of this black out of here because your weather strip sits up in there. Now, they do produce these for a fastback, but for coupe, I'm not real sure. I couldn't find any. But if you look at those, they literally took a screwdriver and beat that thing. The only good thing is you can't see it once it's installed in the car, but when you're trying to straighten stainless up, guys, don't do that. Get it installed, and yes, I know there's still a little black residue, but it's glue. You're gonna put your pinch wheel, your windlace on first. Once you get it up in there, we use your small rubber hammer just to tap that windlace on. That windlace goes on, and then this can go on there. Then you're going to use your mastic, your strip caulk, and what I do, I'll run one bead around the outside of the screw holes and then one back up top, you know, kind of making a little channel in there. And what you want to see some of it kind of squish out around it, like up in here. The reason why that stuff's there, guys, is to keep water, if it runs over here, from running behind that and dripping out between your windlace or falling the windlace down and leaking water in your floor. If you don't put anything there, or any kind of sealer, you will have water leaks, you will have air leaks inside your car. Alternately, instead of sticking it to the roof of the car like I did, you could actually put it on the back side of your molding, you know, up along through here. But when you put those screws in there, you better make sure that they sit flush. You want them flush where that thing bolts on. You can't be tempted not to put anything on it, because if you don't, you will absolutely 100% have a water leak or an air leak, and you'll be chasing this and can't figure out where it's coming from, and it's because you didn't put something between the metal and the other piece of metal. Yeah, it's kind of ugly sometimes. Yeah, it kind of squishes out. It's ugly, but what it does if you don't can be way worse. So just go ahead and do it. You can always go in there with something like a plastic tool or a little piece of a paint stick, you know, something like this, and you could pick that out from around the edge. You won't be able to do that if you use butyl rubber tape, but with the mastic, it comes right out. So just a helpful tip, guys. Hopefully it'll help somebody. once all your roof rail weather strip retainer molding, what do you want to call it, up in here is installed, and wind lace is installed on the edges of your headliner, don't forget there is 2 small brackets that fit on the corners of the dash. I'll flip it around and I'll show it to you and show you where it goes. Don't forget about them also. But once you get your wind lace on there and you know, your weather strip moldings, you are now ready to either put the roof rail weather strip in it, or you're ready to put the front and rear windshield in it. So first, I'm gonna flip it around. I'm gonna show you what I got, and I'll show you that clip that you don't need to forget on the corner dash, and I'll show you where it goes on the 66 here. So the clip is gonna look like this. It's gonna be a little C channel, and that clip goes in there just like this. Be a little screw hole in the corner of your dash. It screws in like that. Your wind lace jumps from here to this clip, and then it runs down to about right here with your switch hole. They do repop these. So if you don't have them, don't worry. Just order them when you order your wind lace. But hopefully that'll save you a little trouble. So I'd ordered a weather strip kit from Kentucky Mustang. This isn't a complete kit, but it covers all your hard bases, meaning when I say it's not a complete kit, it does not come with like your hood bumpers or your door bumpers or stuff like that. But what it does come with is most of the most important stuff that you need. And I'll drop a little screenshot of the full part number down about right here. But all this stuff seems to be Daniel Carpenter stuff, which is generally pretty decent quality, pretty well made. So got our quarter window seals here, our hood decal seal, our roof rail weather strip, which was that molding we just put on there, door weather strips, our door end seals, and our quarter window seals, trunk weather strip, our windshield, and our back glass over there that I've already opened. So the grand box of parts, we have a set of Repops window fuzzies that also come with kit. So definitely want to make sure you definitely get the right one for your car, because the coupe and convertible is way different than the fastback ones. So this video is probably going to be full of little piddly stuff like that, guys, because that's where we're at with this car. Unfortunately, it's not a whole lot of real fun stuff to watch, but Daisy's fun to watch. You see her back there doing kitty cat things. So what I need to do now, we need to decide where we're going forward from here. Do I go ahead and put the roof rail weather strip in? Roof rail, beep, 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 roof rail weather strip in it? Or do I go ahead and put the windshield in it? Or do I go ahead and put the back glass in it? Well, it's not just going to be taking these seals out of the package and throwing them on the car. That's not how putting weather strip on them works either. So I need to make a decision. And I will probably start with the back glass. We need to get the back glass out. We need to get it on some stands. We need to get the glass cleaned up. And then I can roughly mount the weather strip to it. When I say roughly mount, I want to clip the weather strip onto the glass and let it relax. Kind of like we did with the headliner. You need to do the same thing with your windshield and your rear glass seals. It will just help things go along. And this needs to be done in a warm place. So I will probably get this back glass set up, turn the heater on in here and let this thing cook for a little while, and blow directly on it. And once the weather strip's getting hot, we can pull the weather strip back off. We can put our sealer around the glass areas and get our weather strip back on the glass. So let me go grab it and I'll be back. So if you got a piece of garbage glass like what come out of this 65, you want to take, before you even try to put weather strip on this, guys, get you a razor blade, a new straight edge razor blade, like this one was before I started. And this is going to be the reason why you don't paint a car with the windows in it unless you do a good shape job, and you don't do any metal work with the car unless the glass is out of it. If you remember back early on, I took the glass out of this car, and when the windshield was still in, I covered it up really well. But before, when they done the metal work on this car, they didn't care nothing about cleaning any of this stuff up. So if you'll listen, I don't know if you can hear that roughness. 90% of that is metal slag that is burnt to the glass. And what that does, guys, that ruins your glass. Some of it's paint, some of it's overspray, some of it's dirt, but those little tings you hear are metal burnt in that glass. And the bad thing is, you can generally never get it out, and it'll rust in your glass, and then you'll have a dirty looking window all the time. I don't know if you can see all that mess. But at very least, if you're not going to take this glass out, cover it up. Or it cost you big in the end. If this was my personal car, I would put a whole new set of glass in it at this point, because every piece of glass in this car has metal burnt to it, paint overspray, and is just in horrible condition. But we're going to work with what we got and try to save him a little money. So we just want to make sure our glass stays wet and our blade stays perpendicular, as not to dig into the glass. So once you get that piece of glass, or at least one side of it somewhat clean, you can take it and then flip it over and do the other side. Clean my blade off here, make sure the edge is not destroyed on it, because that'll tear your glass up too, guys. You always, if you ever scrape on glass with a razor blade, make sure it is a new one or it's in good shape. Now, you're going to get some dirt around the edges where this glass was glued on from the factory, or in this case, where the idiots that built this car before didn't clean the glass good. We're going to make sure our glass is good and clean. And you'll want to repeat this process at least a couple times just to make sure everything's good and clean. And after about 30 minutes worth of work, what you end up with, guys, especially with old glass, I don't know if you can see it, but that's acid rain stains that have set around the glass. It is a factory car light window. I don't know if you can see that. So it is a factory piece of glass. But it's got some DA burn marks on the outside. And you can see it right there, sand marks on the outside of the glass. For a show car, this wouldn't work. For a daily driver, quality car, this glass will look okay, but it will never be perfectly clear. It is scratched up pretty good. Some of this is just residue where I cleaned it, but I wasn't worried about making it spotlessly clean, but it's in pretty poor shape, especially compared to the glass that I took out of 66, but it would have been a usable piece of glass if I had just took a few minutes and covered everything up, and we wouldn't have some of these little burn pits in it that you can't really see on camera, but there's one. I don't know if you can hear it in that glass as I run my fingernail across it. But yeah, we're gonna use it. So I just don't think if we start replacing everything now on this car, guys, he's gonna have a small fortune over with a small fortune he's already got out. So cleaned up best we can, make it look as good as we can, and then we get it on the car. Like I said, it looked all right with it before, with all the overspray and everything burned into it, so it's bound to look better now, right? So guys, I'm not going to do a whole lot of talking, but I'm going to leave this on normal speed. I've got, this is the inside of the glass, so this will be the side that's on the inside. We're going to open our new rear window seal. If you'll notice, the bottom down there has a wide flange. That flange needs to go towards the inside of the car. So if you take and put it on like this towards the outside of the car, it's not going to work. So now we need to get our glass, our rubber stretched around our glass in a proper orientation. And we're going to let it sit here, and I'm going to turn on the heat pretty high and let this kind of relax for a little while. Get a little diesel heater blowing on our glass here. Now, don't want to get the glass too hot, so I just kind of got it up and it's kind of blowing at it. And what that's going to do is help soften this rubber, so when we go put it in there, this flange will peel back easier to get it in the car. So while we're waiting on this to do its thing, we need to get the roof rail weather strip in there. And I've already come in here and done the passenger side. Got it in there. So I'll show you a few helpful tips with putting this in there, and we'll go from there. But this, guys, is going to be fairly easy and fairly easy for anybody to replicate. Now, the factory does glue these in spots. I've had good luck with not gluing them in. But when you look at the cross section of your rubber here, this is going to be the side toward your headliner. This is going to be the side toward your door. And when you shut the door with glass in it, this stuff folds back and it kind of just seals all together. It's common on an original car. It's got the original weather strips. You'll see this stuff will be kind of compacted together like that. And it actually looks like it's just this profile right here. But it's actually correct being like this. But you want to start on this side. You have a metal tab right here. And you're going to have to put something on the back side of this to glue it to the body right here, or you'll have water come in here and trail down behind. But let's get this put in there. And I'll let y'all watch along and fast forward. and we can go from there. Now, I don't glue mine in. I will, however, go ahead and install this screw in the end. And once I get it in the channel, I will come back, take the screw out, and put some weather strip glue on the area that contacts the body. And then shut the doors for 24 hours. Just give it a good chance to bond how it should bond. Alternately, you could use some butyl rubber caulk or butyl rubber tape, you know, or what some call dum-dum on the back side of this, and that would do just as well also. So let me get this in here, and then I'll be back, guys. And if you're wondering, do I really go back and do stuff the same one doing the video? Absolutely. Because if I don't, it won't be right. But just that little round blob of that behind that weather strip down there in that little spot will be enough for it to seal off. I'll let water travel down between in this area when it runs off your windshield trim. You don't want it to get behind here, because this, your door end cap, your roof roll weather strip, and your door rubber all work together to keep water from running straight in your car down through here. And yes, also know I missed my tape line a little bit, but I don't think it's going to hurt anything in the grand scheme on this car. Alright, now as our turbo rocket diesel heater over there cools down, I've got a very strong piece of twine right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this twine in between our window rubber right here. Now, a lot of people use a nylon rope. This piece of twine, you can probably hang off this thing and it's not going to break, so hopefully it'll work fine for this. But I'm going to put you on time lapse. I'm just going to feed that around right there until both my loops are about on the same side, and then we start trying to get this rear glass in the car. Windows in, and as you can see, that tightened up quite a bit back there. I still need to kind of pull a little bit on it downward, but the glass is in, guys. I have never seen such a tight fitting rear glass rubber in my life, but this one was definitely it, even after being heated up in front of that heater for over an hour. So the rear glass is in. We gotta get the windshield. I brought it in here so it could stabilize its temperature overnight. We gotta get it in there, and then we can move further as we need to. And if you didn't notice, I did not put any sealer around the glass to the rubber. There's a reason for that, guys. And I'll show you that right now. And I'll show you a way to make sure your back glass don't leak, or your windshield. And Ford done this also. If you've ever took out a factory glass, you know it is packed full of butyl rubber or strip caulk or something along that line. And there's a reason for that, because no matter what you do to a rubber windowsill like this, it's still going to leak. Especially over time as things shrink and move around. So there's a reason why I bought that big old roll of strip caulk, and I'm fixing to show it to you. And this might help you out on your project. Do not do this if you plan on taking the glass back out, or you're never going to drive your car in the rain. You're never going to wash your car. But if you're going to use your car as a car, this will help you not have water leaks. So remember that big old long roll of strip caulk I bought? What I'm going to do, I'm going to take this, I'm going to double it up close as I can to stacking it. I'm going here between my window clips. I'm going to tear this off just a little bit longer. Now, I'm really going to mash this together because I want this to fall down between this crack as close as I can get it. And the good thing about strip caulk is, guys, it does not necessarily stick to paint. You want to get a little bit of it over the top of your clip, but you want the bulk of it in this groove. You're going to take your paint stick. You're going to take the end of it, because strip caulk does stick to wood very well. And you're going to take, pushing from the rubber side, you want to keep this off the rubber as much as you can. You want to get down in here and pack this down in there. And you may be wondering, well, what about the trim clips? It's going to leak around the trim clips. No, it won't. Because in the act of packing this in here, guys, and the fact that you see me put that little bit over the top of it, that lets me take, and this is just a nylon trim tool, it's going to let me pack that down in there, and when I pack beside this clip on both sides, it will push it between. And this is just an extra thing you can do to help. I also take my plastic pry tool or a paint stick, and I'll stick it in the window rubber, and I'll lay a little small thinned out bead. And when I say thinned out, I'll roll this thing out to about 1/8 of an inch in there, and I'll go in and I'll lay a piece inside the rubber itself. When this stuff gets hot, guys, it gets mega sticky and flows into gaps. So that's the point of having it packed down enough past the lip right here that it won't run out on your paint when it gets hot, but it will run in all those gaps and crevices that, you know, cause water leaks. So hopefully just something will help you out later. When I get to getting the windshield in it, I'll show you the other side of it also. But this is one step that, if you look at factory stuff, guys, They're packed full. And there's a reason they're packed full. It's because these things were designed. They weren't worried about water leaks. A lot of these old classic cars, they leak water. You won't see this anyway. What's all your trims on? It can save you a whole lot of heartache and some moldy interior if you just spend a little time. And you know, that roll of strip caulk wasn't very high. I think it was less than 30 bucks from Kentucky Mustang. It's well worth it. And if you got a car that you had glass put in and it's leaking and pouring water around it, you can also go back and do this. You'll just have to take your trim off. But packing it with that paint stick in there ensures there's no air gaps. You don't have much. This paint stick is a very snug fit in between the glass and the rubber. Maybe that'll help you a little bit. Because if you start trying to glue this stuff in when you're putting rubber in, you're going to have a mess on the inside on your headliner. It just makes messes. And, you know, just the way I found it actually works. Might save you a little bit of time. And this stuff's cheap, guys. Like I said, when it gets a little heat in it, it'll kind of flow together. It's not going to run out on your paint or anything, but it does get mega soft and kind of, you know, lightly, you know, does the thing. So hopefully it helps you. So guys, I've got our windshield ready to go in. I'm going to have to kind of skip over me putting it in, but it's pretty much just going to be roped in like I did the back window. I'm going to put that piece of twine around the inside of the rubber. I'm going to get a little help. You'll need a little help to do that. You want to set the bottom of your glass in first, and you want to get the center. Most importantly, you want to get that in between that rubber. That way that glass can go down. And then you'll just get a helper to kind of help you apply pressure where you need to get the glass to seat into place. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to skip that. Even on time lapse, this video is already like 42 minutes long. So let me get the glass in. I'll be back. And we'll talk about the little strip caulk deal. I think that's more important than you watching me put a piece of glass in at this point, especially since I'm put this rubber in dry in the car. You definitely want to make sure that you do like I did on the back glass and pack it around the rubber and the body down in that gap. That will make sure that you don't have a leak. But you also want to put that little bit in the rubber. So let me get this glass in there and I'll be back. And by video magic, the windshield is in. So I'm going to cover what I do around the inside edge of this glass. So the easiest way for me to do this is just to show you. So what I'm going to do, I'll pull up the edge of this glass, guys. And sometimes I'll take a little pick and get it started. Like this. And then I'll take a paint stick like that. I'm going to take some of our strip caulk, like so. And I'll roll this between my hands until it is round, instead of a flat piece. You can do that on the glass too. And what that does is take a little bit of the sticky out of it. But you want to end up kind of a thin bead. You're just going to take work it around up under his seal in between. What that does is it helps make a seal between the rubber and the glass. And it don't have to be perfect in there. You can always go back in there and kind of trim this out, or around the edges where you see it. But You know, a paint stick works real well for that. You can just kind of get it up, take it in, and while it's up, you can use your finger to hold it up, and then just work your bead all the way in there. But guys, you can use an nylon tool too. This front windshield rubber is a lot more dense than the rear one was. And it's like 80 degrees in here. But you can just take that up under there real good. And as that rubber, the pressure on that rubber will seal that off all the way around it. That's what I do. I'll just go there, I'll roll me out just a little thin bead of it and run along the inside edge of the windshield here on the inside of the rubber. It's just a lot less messy than trying to, you know, shove that up in there when you're putting the rubber in. Having to deal with pulling it out with your rope and what have you. And if you have any smush back out, you can just take your tool and kind of squish it back, or you can go down through here and cut it off, however you want to do it. But hopefully that'll help somebody. Daisy seems pretty happy with things. She's wondering why we're not working on the 66 that we've been working on 65. So I got all my window rubber packed around there all the way around. I got it on the inside lip. So at this point we're ready for trim. But this video seems to be getting kind of long, so this is probably where we're going to have to cut this video off and start on our next video for our 66. Ain't that right, Daisy? Huh? You want to remind them about your shirts? Yeah. And make sure you check out our merchandise store, guys. It's right down below. Some tag products are in the description. Or you can go to our main channel and go to store, and you can check out our merchandise. So guys, got quite a bit done, even though it don't seem like we got quite a bit done. I'm going to continue working in the background on the 65 for another couple days, and all that stuff will be in our next video. So that said, if you like these kind of videos, guys, make sure you hit that like button, share these videos with your friends. If you're not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button because it does help the channel grow, and we are super close to 10,000 subscribers. I'm going to do another giveaway when we get there. If you are a subscriber, I greatly appreciate you guys. I look forward to everybody's comments down below. So until next one, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you at the next video.